Who are you? And more importantly, what is with your lighting? Oh my god. You're ruining the mood. I'm Pragmatik, and I brought with me your childhood fear. Oh sweet, Clock Tower 3! Oh man, this game scared me as a kid. I couldn't even finish it. But we do have a policy. We don't do the whole dark character thing. No dark characters, no alternate universes, you know, unless it fits the narrative. Oh, Skelly! Skeletons. How can you get skeletons? We didn't get skeletons in dark. You know, we got a whole dark character situation. You know how it is. We don't do that. So if you could escort Pragmatik, whatever, out of here. Thanks, bud. Oh, come on. This isn't what is supposed to happen.
Clock Tower 3 was developed by Sunsoft and Capcom, with Capcom publishing the title. Clock Tower had a rocky start when coming to the States, starting as a Super Famicom title and only making its way to the States as a PS1 title. Clock Tower's rights fell completely to Sunsoft when Human Entertainment went out of business, thus leading to the creation of Clock Tower 3. This installment would see a lot of key differences in this title, namely that the player had full control of the protagonist rather than being a point and click like the previous games. Clock Tower 3 would also have the cinematic direction of Kenji Fukasaku, who also worked on the hit movie Battle Royale.
Nice shot!
Sadly, Clock Tower 3 and Battle Royale would be some of Fukasaku's last work before passing away in 2003. The plot follows the young protagonist, Alyssa, as she heads to her boarding house home on her 15th birthday, only to find her mother missing, only left with a note telling her to go into hiding until her birthday is over. But a warning like that doesn't stop Alyssa. She's soon confronted by a tenant known as the Dark Gentleman.
Do you know where my mother is?
Your mother has gone out. That was early yesterday morning.
Huh?
She mentioned that she would not be coming back for some time.
What?
She was wrong. She won't be coming back. At all. So it's just you. You are all alone in this world now, little girl.
That leads her into trying to find out more about her mother's disappearance. Searching around her mother's room, she finds some holy water, which leads her into a series of events that causes her to get transported to London during World War II. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is where things get real. Alyssa will have to go through a series of confrontations. She'll encounter people known as subordinates, that are known killers. She'll have to face them to find out the truth of her missing mother. Throughout the game, Alyssa will be transported to different time periods, where she will encounter one of these subordinates. When it comes to defending herself, you'll find that Alyssa comes up a little short-handed. Her only means of defense is holy water, which can stun subordinates for a short time. The uses of her holy water are limited though, but Alyssa can refill her bottle when she comes into contact with a fountain. Using the holy water will be crucial to escaping the clutches of the subordinates, as it is nearly the only thing you have to protect yourself. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you do a horror game justice. I know I've touched on the horror formats of Silent Hill and Resident Evil in my Genius of Silent Hill video, but Clock Tower 3 is notable for not putting the player on an equal playing field, which makes each encounter that much more terrifying. It's not about beating the opposition, it's about surviving. And survival will be hard. Alyssa will have some help though. Her one saving grace is that she can sometimes encounter spirits in her travels. These spirits are usually recently departed and find themselves tethered to the world by an earthly possession. Finding these items and bringing them back to the spirits will free them from the world and will leave you with a nice item to help you in your encounters. These can be items such as a gem that will block a hit for you, or a ring that will make you temporarily invisible. Alyssa can also find lavender water that acts like a health potion. But rather than health in this game, Alyssa has a panic meter. Sudden appearances by the subordinate or close encounters can drive Alyssa's panic meter through the roof. Alyssa will be fine until her panic meter is full. At this point, she'll enter panic mode, which makes her run like a complete doofus and sometimes just freeze for a couple seconds. Alyssa's speed does increase in this mode, but her sudden stops can leave her open to an attack, and if that happens, it's game over for you and for her. Luckily, there are a few ways to keep Alyssa safe. Along each stage, you can find a few hiding spots. Hiding here will lower your panic meter and allow you to escape a chase from a subordinate. Don't rely too much on these though, as the subordinates will catch on to you. I feel like these spots are pretty lenient though. I'm fairly sure Sledgehammer here watched me go into this locker and just kind of forgot I was there. Another method of escape are these event locations. These are cinematic events that incapacitate the subordinate until a scripted encounter. These events can range anywhere from cool to kind of silly. I'm sorry, did this 15-year-old girl just straight up Goldberg spear this bulky sledgehammer man to the ground and knock him out? Is Alyssa secretly a badass? Yes. Yes, she is. The game keeps that classic thriller film trope of the villain being able to keep up with the protagonist despite being incapacitated a few screens earlier. The way these jump scares play out did make me jump a few times, I'll admit. The general format of each stage is Alyssa constantly running from and avoiding the subordinate, all while finding items to unlock other parts of the stage, usually finding key items that will lead to a final confrontation. For example, Sledgehammer here is a resurrected convict, known for killing many people, including a young aspiring pianist, whose life was abruptly ended while being assaulted by Sledgehammer. It's up to Alyssa to find her earthly attachment. Finding everything you need to finish the stage leads to a final confrontation, and it's kind of awesome. Reaching the end of the stage, we'll see Alyssa changing her holy water bottle into a bow and arrow, and she totally starts doing some magical girl stuff, and it's kinda crazy. I note that having Alyssa finally enter a level playing field doesn't take away from the horror aspect, because getting here has to be earned, and the final confrontation is pretty hard and kind of not. Alyssa can't move or even adjust her shot when aiming her bow, and to do any real damage you'll have to charge the arrow for a while. Once you land a good hit, you can kind of spam a charge shot to keep the subordinate tethered to one spot. After that, it's just whittling down their health. Maybe you've noticed I've only shown footage for the first subordinate. That's because in truth, this game isn't very long, only clocking in about 7 hours, and that's if you don't know what you're doing, so showing too much else would be kind of spoilery. That is one of the few downsides of what is mostly a great game. The biggest problem Clock Tower 3 can have is its control scheme, and I don't mean that in a way that the controls are bad, it's rather that the camera angles can sometimes hinder your inputs. When transitioning between locked camera positions, what was once your up input now shifts to the down input, causing Alyssa to immediately dart in the opposite direction and into the face of her pursuer. And maybe playing Resident Evil and Silent Hill has conditioned me to assume that when you open a door, you also walk through it. For Alyssa, it's not the case, as she'll just kind of stand there staring at the door she just opened. And don't forget to wiggle your joysticks if you get knocked down, because that depends on how fast Alyssa gets up, and if you're not quick, you can lock yourself into getting knocked into panic mode. But other than these few tips, the game handles really well, never feeling sluggish, just directionally challenged. Controls aside, we can focus on the good of this game. A major point to what makes this game work so well is its graphics. This game looks pretty great for a PS2 game, and the motion capture for the characters really shines during those cutscenes. Truly a great final mark for the late Fukasaku to leave us with. And with graphics comes atmosphere. Composer Koji Kobu constructed the perfect tracks to make you feel like you were really being stalked. A major credit to him is working in this piece from Frédéric Chopin, only to hear it abruptly stop. I remember this being one of the things that made me hesitate playing. I used to think that every time the music abruptly stopped, I had triggered something in the game. Finding out later that it's actually the ghost of the Sledgehammer's victims playing makes it all much more blended and relevant, which is something you don't get to see very often. A lot of the story and script was worked on by Noboru Sugimura, who is already known for some of the Resident Evil games and one of my personal favorites, Onimusha. With a track record like that, it was no wonder that the story and the scares worked so well. Music, atmosphere, and writing are all required elements needed to make a perfect horror game stick. And to me, at least, Clock Tower 3 does just that. What keeps Clock Tower 3 interesting is how centered each stage is, with the player only focusing on one big area to explore, rather than all kinds of areas. This greatly reduced backtracking and kept the fear of encountering the subordinate at any moment believable, and the less that the player has to keep them at arm's length from the villain, the more that the fear seems to become real. Hiding spaces and fear meters seems to be something you're more likely to encounter in an indie game rather than a AAA title, but these are elements I don't feel were overdone even when they were more common. It's something I'd really like to see make a resurgence into common horror games, especially with heightened technology enabling a more realistic touch, something I feel Clock Tower at its time was going for. While I don't think Clock Tower 3 got as much credit I feel it deserves, it's never too late to try and go back to an old game, and with such a short playtime, this is one game you could definitely conquer before the end of Halloween. So if you're up to the challenge, grab your holy water and take on some of the scariest villains the PS2 has to offer. Thanks for watching. Is Clock Tower 3 an overlooked classic, or am I overhyping just another PS2 game? Let me know down in the comments and be sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you want to see more. As always, keep it practical. and have a safe Halloween.